Okay, so in this video we're going to import some data. We're going to create a decision tree and we're going to have a look at it. So we have a few more things in our import to do than usual. So we want pandas as PD, and pi as NP, matplotlib, .pyplot as PLT, and we're also going to, at this point, import our decision tree classifier. So that comes from sklearn.tree. So we're just importing the tree section of this. We're importing decision tree classifier as DTC, because I'm not going to type out decision tree classifier more times than I need to do. And we want to upload our data to Google. Oh, what's happened there? Oh, got it. matplotlib.py plot, because indeed it doesn't have a module called pilot. So we've imported everything that we need. We need to upload our data to Google. So it's the usual from google.colab, import files. We'll call it uploaded as opposed to downloaded, files.upload, open close brackets. And then we pick our file from here, the downloads, and it's the iris data that we're working on, which is a very famous data set and is very famously used with decision trees, so we need to keep using this. And then want to read this data in, so we have it available for use. So iris equals pd.read_csv, and make sure you match the name perfectly. I'm going to cut and paste it, just in case it's downloaded as something different for yourself. And as always, check that we've actually read the data in. Fab. So the iris data set is 150 measurements, 50 of each of 3 types of irises, the Satoa, the versicolor and the virginica. And for each of our 150 different irises, they have measured the sepal length, the sepal width, so this is the green bit underneath the petals, the petal length and the petal width, and we have our truth data. We know what species it is. I'm going to select a subsection of this data to run my decision tree on. I'm going to pick out measurements to use. I'm going to pick these out as a Python list because I'm going to use this data again later on. I'm going to pick sepal length and sepal width. So I'm just going to work on the sepals and pretend that the petal isn't there for this particular set of data. So make sure when you're using pandas to select this data, you have square brackets and you have your comma separated variables here. So I need to select some measurements to train on for our decision tree and the known answers, because remember, we need an answer. So our measurements are going to be our measurements to use. And we need to do dot values because we want to keep the values there. And we're not worried about the structure of them. And our answer data is the species. So we're going to select that straight up, iris, and again the dot values, please. And if we run that, with the correct spelling, we've got the measurements that we're going to train on, and then known answers, which allows us to check the answer. Well, allows us to create the decision tree. And actually creating the decision tree is quite straightforward if we're using our decision tree classifier. We need to give it a name, iris tree, set that equal to decision tree classifier, open and close brackets, dot fit, and we need to tell it the measurements we want it to fit to. and the answer for those. And if we print this out, iris tree, it tells us all the options that we could have had. So notice these brackets are empty. We could have specified any of these criteria inside that bracket. Most of the time, the defaults work very well, and particularly if you're just having a quick first look at your data, the defaults are a great place to start, and then you can refine afterwards. And in this case, actually, the default ones just work perfectly fine for our decision tree. What I want to do is I want to have a look at the decision tree we've made, and then we're actually later on in this course we're going to have a look at some of the choices here that we could have made to maybe improve or just to give a different option. So in Google Colab, there's a few packages that you can use, and that will allow you to actually print your decision tree to screen. So I've put a copy of this in the material for this class, so you can just cut and paste it from there. You don't need to actually type it all out. And this allows you to export the graphics and the various packages that are needed to actually create the physical version of your decision tree. And at the end of this, when it's taken that information out of your tree data, exported the graph for the iris tree and produced it. If you run that, it has a thing. It's got a couple of installation of packages to do. It's doing the pip install. It chunters through and it produces your decision tree for you. So it's a little bit small on the screen, I appreciate, to read. You can obviously zoom in, but then you can only see sections of it. It tells us what data set it was doing the split on. So this is X0, so this is the 0th column. It tells us what the split was. So we'd chosen the Gini criteria to split because we hadn't specified a split. It tells you what that split value is. It tells you how many samples have gone into this, and it tells you how it's split them out. So you can see it's done 50 into 3 separate sections there. Just make that a bit smaller. You can see the whole thing. And you can see that it grows out like a tree, as you would expect. Okay, when you're ready, the next video we're going to have a look at how to use this decision tree that we've just created. So we've created our decision tree here, which is our machine learning algorithm for that. We've visually looked at it, and we're going to use it now to get some results. I'll see you there when you're ready.